in the past I've actually looked towards the Conservatives. And I've looked towards the Conservatives because I'm supposed to be one of their target voters because of my age. And I've been somebody who's done really well out of the system. But the system doesn't work anymore because it's left lots of young people homeless, lots of families using food banks, lots of people who are in debt up to their eyeballs and are worried about that. And it's about time people my age got out and voted for the many, not the few, and start thinking of others and not themselves. Because unless people my generation go out and vote to make a change, change won't happen. And change has to happen. Because if you let the Tories back in, you're going to be worse off. The NHS is going to go down, education is going to suffer, and all those teachers, and I used to be one of them, are going to suffer pay cuts year after year. How can we have nurses who have to go to food banks? I'm ashamed of that. I'm shocked by that. I thought at my age I couldn't see anything more, but I've seen too much. And people my age have got to stop this rot now. And I urge anybody who believes in democracy, who believes in fairness and believes in compassion, go out and vote. Don't think for themselves, think about the others. We've had our chance, we've had our life, we are going to be okay. Give the youngsters a chance, give them a chance, they deserve it. I'm just hoping that the older generation, or the generation of medium age, can see the lies and fabrication that the Tories are using and how they're bending their arguments to suit themselves. There has to be a time for change, and I feel for the first time, probably for as many years as I can remember, a sense in the air that there's a will to change, and a will to change for the better. And if we're a country of democracy who believe in compassion and freedom and all the things that go with that, this is the time when we have to change it. I think this is once in a lifetime we can make a real change. And I just hope everybody goes out and vote, especially people in my generation.
And do you think if the younger generation don't go out and vote that Corbyn will have a chance?
I think the younger people have to go out and vote, and they often do. It's enlightening to see younger people who were apathetic in the past towards politicians because they believe they all say the same thing. They believe in this man. They believe in this man. And he's had to fight to get where he is. He's had to fight against backbiting in Parliament. He's had to fight against the media. He's had to fight against other politicians. He's had to fight against people bending what he says. So he's got resilience and he's got backbone. And if he leaves this country, we're going to see resilience and we're going to see backbone.
Why do you think people call him weak if he's got all these things?
I think people who call him weak, it's because they're frightened, because they want sound bites, because they want very different cliches that people use, things that catch the media, things that stand out. It's sound bites without any real depth. And Corbyn talks with depth, and he has an understanding, he has an intelligence, and he has a common sense. And as the politician, I think he used in one of his interviews, I use less of this and more of that. And he listens, and I wish more politicians would do the same.
Do you think it's realistic, all the things he's saying that he can actually achieve?
I think it's realistic in as much that he believes them, and I think it is better to have somebody who's got a hope of trying to change things. The Tories are promising so many things that they can't change. As soon as they feel the polls change, they change it. The thing about dementia tax, they changed that when it wasn't going to work. They changed things about the police, about armed police, about the cuts in police forces. They changed things according to how they do it. Corbyn can change a lot of things if there's a will in this country to do it. It's a case of how he uses the money and how he uses it wisely. I would like to see how the Tories have actually used their money in the past, and if they could have used the money they've sometimes given tax gifts to the rich, how they could have used that for the less well off. It's a case of what people believe in. And I think if people believe in what Corbyn believes in, and they're willing to trust him, I think he'll prove right in the end.
So previously, was you a Conservative voter then?
I'm ashamed to say that in the past I voted Conservative.
And why was that? Was it purely race and Is it just
I
local MP?
I voted Conservative because I suppose, like many people who've done well in the system, it was, do we want things to change? I'm okay. Do we want things to change? Is it too much of a risk for things to change? Things change for the worse. And I did well in the system because I got education paid for. I went to university, it was paid for. I was the first person in my family who went to university. I was able to do that. I was able to get jobs while I was working my way to university, jobs that paid okay. And it was a different kind of world, it was a different kind of civilization. It's so easy for people who are comfortable to sit in a house and say, I'm okay. Jeremy Corbyn's promising this, he's promising that, he's promising the other. What if I lose what I've got already? What if he takes some of the money that I've got and uses it for that? I'm worried that's going to happen. What if he does that? And he won't do that, and he can't do that. It's for the many, not the few. And if people are thinking that, they need to think of those who have very little. And they have to show compassion. This is a compassionate country who believe in people, and we have to change the tide. We have to change the tide of this callousness of a Tory government who say things with such a narrow superiority. It's almost the looking down on people below them, that they're going to take it, they can't fight back. They haven't been able to fight back in the past. Well, they can fight back, and they've got the chance now to fight back for the first time in generations, and I hope they will take that opportunity.
And are you from Newcastle?
I'm from Newcastle.
And what did you teach? What class?
I was a head teacher.
Which school?
I worked in several schools.
Oh, right, okay.
And I moved back to the northeast 16 years ago to take up a headship in Northumberland. And I've just recently retired. And I'm ashamed to say that I voted Conservative when I look around. When I walk down that riverbank and I see people in doorways and alleyways holding out cans and asking for 10 pence or something like that. When I watch people coming out those big hotels with lots and lots of money and walk past those people and don't even see them in the streets, I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed, really. I'm just sometimes ashamed of people I see doing that.
And would this be the first time you voted Labour then?
It would be the first time in a long, long time I've voted Labour.
And what about your local MP? Do you...
My local MP is Labour, and...
What's his name or her name?
His name is Campbell.
And
his Tynemouth constituency. And Tynemouth is it's a mixture of it. Tynemouth's quite an affluent constituency in terms of the area around it, but there's also very poor parts also around North Shields and places like that. And I think I had somebody knock on the door and ask today, did I want to talk about politicians? And I said, who did you represent? And they said, the Tory party. And I said, no thanks, but I can debate it with you in terms of why I don't believe in the Tory party anymore. And that person walked away. He said, so you're going to vote Labour? And I said, yes, I'm going to vote Labour. And they walked away because they almost didn't want to hear the arguments. I think the arguments we've got are too strong and they need to be heard. And I believe in Corbyn. It's the first politician for years and years and years that I've actually believed in. We watched Tony Blair with the all singing, all dancing and all, bells whistling and everything else come to power. And all the pop stars, and we watched him leave and become a multi-millionaire. I could never believe Corbyn would do that. I think he would come into power and would have his eye on the people, not on what he could get out of it at the end. Boris Johnson and all his cronies around him, all his cronies who are around him, and you've seen him, they surround themselves by those who are privileged, by the protection, I'd say, and they surround themselves by big business and media who are always looking after themselves.
Why do you think the media is so against him?
I don't know the answer to that. I really don't. I wish I did know the answer to that, because his arguments are very powerful. I could say that media owners, or Tories, I don't know, and perhaps I should know that. And I'm surprised. I don't understand why the media are against Corbyn. it shocks me that they don't listen to the argument or they bend the argument to suit themselves. I don't know if it's because Daily Mail readers tend to be Tories, I don't know. I am a Daily Mail and was a Daily Mail reader, you know, and I'm somewhat shocked by the facts they present and the way they bend things and the way they sometimes attack Corbyn or they selective edit the things he says.
And how do you feel? Do you feel that Corbyn sort of injected politics onto young people? I mean, before they weren't really interested.
Yeah, I think he has. I think the fact is that he had to fight against other parliamentarians who tried to oust him, you know, in the past, and he had to come through that. And it was a democratic vote. His party. He has a mandate from so many people, so many young people, and I think he's inspired them to believe that politics can make a difference. And I think if politics can make a difference and young people say it can make a difference, that's more than the Tories are doing. I remember when we had the election when the guy from Sheffield Hallam, and I forgot his name, but who said he would.
Oh yeah, Nick Craig.
Yeah, and we had people youngsters in Sheffield queuing out of polling stations, thinking he was going to abolish tuition fees and everything else. And as soon as they got into power, it changed. And I think that's what happened. You know, the Tories and the Lib Dems and the coalition, they didn't do what they promised they would do. And I think young people have felt let down. And I can't imagine in any shape or form that Corbyn would even dream of doing that. I think he would fight for everything he believes in. I just hope that those who are in government with him will fight the same way.
What do you think to how most of his peers and MPs are sort of against him? You know, they're not like backing him, and what do you feel about that?
I think a lot from the old guard. I watched this week, I think it was, or a programme the other day where Ed Balls was on with a Conservative person, and I was shocked by Ed Balls because Ed Balls was talking about how it was going to be a landslide for the Conservatives and almost was trying to belittle Corbyn in many ways. And that's an establishment who's almost had their nose put out, and it's almost like, even though we believe in the Labour Party values, we're not going to vote for this man because we're no longer part of it. We'll go and Strictly Come Dancing, or we'll use my wife who's in Parliament, you know, and I haven't heard of it. Her being very vociferous for Jeremy Corbyn either. And it's a political elite, I think, who feel as though their noses are being pushed out and they have a lot to lose. I firmly believe they have a lot to lose, and they believe they've got a lot to lose, because Jeremy is going to bring the people into Parliament rather than Parliament keeping the people out.
And what can you do to change it, or what have you done to change things?
The fact that I'm talking to you, in the past if somebody had stopped me I would have said, sorry, too busy, going out, doing what I need to do, whatever it is. But it's important that people like me talk to anybody who wants to listen. Anybody who wants to stop you in the street and say, what do you think of Jeremy Corbyn? I think you've got to say, here is a man who can bring about change. Here's a man who can make a difference, and you have to go out and vote to him. And that's what I'm doing, and that's why I'm talking to you and anybody else who will listen. And I think people my age should do exactly the same.